The normal and rare event is here. At least the ban list is here. We can now decide on what deck we want to play, and I have a deck that you guys might like. Yo, what's up, boys and girls? It's your boy Swolelax here, and I'm back at it again with another video. This time, something just a little bit different. Today, let's go over a deck profile that I think you guys should be playing for the normal and rare event upcoming in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Now, the event isn't for another couple days, but they decided to release the ban list a little bit early. So let's go ahead and dive into some of the features. Let's go over some of the details. If you guys like this video, make sure to leave it a like. And if you want to see more from your boy, please consider subscribing. We're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I really hope we can do so. Thank you so much to everyone who subscribes and helps support the channel. It really does mean a lot. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into the new normal and rare festival. So here inside of the main duel menu next to the ranked mode, you have the normal and rare festival. Go ahead and click on that. We have the rewards with the duel medals. So they're doing a very similar system to last time, but one important thing to note out is that the way that they're separating out the gems is much different. It's actually much more top heavy than it is bottom heavy. And you have to go to 10,000 to get the max gems, and everything else is just legacy packs, which is, I think, pretty welcome. You know, if you don't want to play past 10,000, which is about the halfway point to the duel medals, then, you know, you don't have to play for these legacy packs, which are also, by the way, pretty useless. So, you know, we get a lot of gems up front. I haven't done the total cost on this gems, but it seems like it's somewhat comparable. I could be wrong on that, but you guys let me know if you guys have done the math on that. The most important thing is, though, is that we have the event info. We have the forbidden and limited list. So the forbidden and limited list for the normal and rare festival, obviously we have every super rare and ultra rare that are banned. This seems like it's pretty good, but there are no banned cards for the normals, which I think is very interesting, because if you go to the limited section, this part makes sense. We have a bunch of cards, the Exodia pool, we have Needle Ball, we have Morphine Jar, Poison Mummy, and Dark Snake Syndrome. A bunch of 1-0s for everything like Planet Pathfinder, Moon Mirror Shield, the Supreme King Dragon Darkworm, Michion the Time Lord, which is funny because they're doing some nerfs to Time Lords, Orcus, and Tenyi Vashetta. So they're not actually hitting it as hard as we thought they would. These decks are still very playable. Now, in the semi-limited section, we have a bit more Brain Control, which I think is actually a pretty good hit. I completely slept on this card. We have a bunch of Magic Spectre cards, the Magical Meltdown, it's kind of interesting. Harmonizing Magician, Night Draco Lich, which I don't know about this tech at all, but this one might be pretty interesting for something like Tenyi. So yeah, overall, I guess these are kind of soft hits. Of course, we have like the True Draco hits with the True Draco Apocalypse. Very interesting ban list for this event for the normal and rare festival. But luckily, I was waiting to debut this deck because I thought that something was going to get hit on it, but it turns out, no, it's not. So many cards aren't there. For the loner decks, before we hop into our deck, we have 3 of them. Thunderbolt in the far north, you know, reference to North Academy. I kind of like that a little bit. We have Armed Dragons and Armed Thunder Dragons, which is pretty cool. I think that's pretty solid. And then we have a Bond through the Passion of 4 cards, which I am assuming this is a Joey reference and a Yugi reference, though I'm not 100% certain on that. So that's also interesting. And then the last one, which is Tangled Hawk's Nest. This also might be an anime reference. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. But the loner decks are not what we're here for. Today, I want to showcase to you a hero deck that you can play in the normal and rare festival. That's right, baby. We're going all the way back to some OG hero strategies. Now, to preface this, we were going to be playing evil heroes for this event, but we decided against it. In fact, I have something a little more powerful, and that's going to be Elemental Hero, Shining Flare Wingman Turbo. Moving on to the card by card, we're running 2 copies of Elemental Hero Avion, 2 copies of Persinatrix, 2 copies of Sparkman. Now, you think that you only want to run 1 of the vanillas, and normally that would be the case, but in this deck specifically, you actually want to see them more consistently to get into your fusion plays. And we'll explain more about that later. 3 copies of Evil Hero Infernal Prodigy, which is an extra hero name. It's a free special summon, and while it's not great for fusion plays, it is pretty good for your Link monsters. Next, we have 2 copies of Lunalight Black Sheep. A lot of people are asking, what is this card for? You can discard it to add a polymerization from your deck to your hand. So think of this thing kind of like a King of the Swamp. Very good, except for it's not able to be used as fusion material. It's more of a consistency thing. Then we have 3 copies of the MVP Light Hex Sealed Fusion. This card can be substituted for any fusion material as long as the other one is correct, which is important for us using Sparkman, Hex Healed Fusion to get into Shining Flare Wingman. Now, it can be used for other things, and it also can be used with Miracle Fusion when it's inside of the grave to turbo out Shining Flare Wingman and Flame Wingman and Mudball Man and Dark Bright. All these cards can be used for Hex Healed Fusion, which is amazing. Now, the other material does have to be correct, so it doesn't work with Prisma on the field, which is kind of unfortunate, but this card is pretty amazing. Now, you could probably run more of the fusion substitutes, but I like Hex Healed Fusion the best. Then we have 1 copy of Bubble Man, 2 copies of Prisma, pretty good way of getting hero monsters inside of your graveyard, plus it's a pretty decent attack stat of 1700. Then we have 2 copies of Blaze Man, a Polymerization Searcher. You could probably cut this card down to 1. It's not amazing in the deck because you can't really use it for your fusion plays, but it's another Elemental Hero name, plus it loads the graveyard, searches a Polymerization. It's pretty decent in this format. Next, we have 2 copies of Polymerization and 3 copies of Lightning Vortex, one of the best removal spells for this format. As a rare, this card is pretty powerful. Then we have 1 copy of Fusion Recovery. Interesting tech, probably could cut it, but just depends. 3 copies of Miracle Fusion. This card is insane, and I can't believe it's a rare. Then we have 3 copies of Fusion Conscription. This thing allows you to search a fusion material from your deck to your hand. So let's say, for example, you have a Light Hex Sealed Fusion, and you need to get to Sparkman, or you need to get to Pristinatrix, etc. This card really does help you boost the consistency of this strategy. Speaking of which, we have 2 copies of Infernoble Arms Durandal. Funny enough, this card is very good in the TCG, but also it's an interesting way of searching out Blazeman and Burstinatrix because they are level 5 or lower Fire Warrior monsters. So a little bit of a flex spot, but also boosts the consistency. Then we have 3 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon, a necessity inside of this format for spot removal. Then 2 copies of Torrential Tribute and 2 copies of what I would believe to be the MVP and super underrated for this format is Paleozoic Dynamiscus, a banish card that also is a body whenever a trap card is activated because you can chain it to special summon it. Very good spot removal as well, so I recommend these cards too. That's gonna be the main deck. For the extra deck, we have 1 copy of Steam Healer. This card is kind of a name. It doesn't really have any big significance. You're not gonna be summoning it often. You might be summoning Flame Wingman, the OG, pretty often. And funny enough, the burn damage for Flame Wingman and Shining Flare Wingman is kind of a good win condition for this deck. Then 1 copy of Mudball Man, one of the only fusion effect monsters that has no effect. Big booty there. Then we have 1 copy of Dark Bright. This card is not that great because it does change to defense position after it attacks, but the destruction effect to target a monster your opponent controls to destroy it is pretty good. 2 copies of Shining Flare Wingman. You definitely want to run 2 copies of this because you are able to go into Polymerization and then Miracle Fuse right after that if you have a Hex Sealed Fusion. And this thing is big body. It can get up to some insane attack points, and really the burn damage is quite significant. 1 copy of Tempest. Tempest is in here as like a small world target, and if you're going to play the TCG, you know what that means, but if you don't, then the Link monsters will make more sense with that. I'll explain in a second. Then we have 1 copy of Elemental Wild Wingman, more of a flex spot. 1 copy of Shining Phoenix Enforcer, just kind of a cool flex spot as well. Change those 2 out for whatever you need. 1 copy of Wonder Driver for recursion of value. This comes up sometimes, but not often. 1 copy of Cross Sheep. This card's pretty good, and it's a rare, which is very strong. And then 2 copies of Infernal Devicer, the MVP and most important card inside of this rarity deck. Now, to explain how this card works, whenever it is Link Summon, then you can reveal 1 hero fusion monster in your extra deck and add up to 2 cards of the fusion materials listed on the card with different names. So for example, let's say this card is summoned out with 2 hero monsters as its material, then you can reveal from your deck a Shining Flare Wingman to add just Sparkman. You could add you could reveal an Elemental Hero Flame Wingman to add Avion and add Burstinatrix. And then also you can reveal Elemental Hero Tempest, which allows you to get either Avion, Bubbleman, or Sparkman. And now here's the really cool thing is that it kind of allows you a little bit of flexibility in keeping card advantage because let's say you have 1 Avion in the graveyard, let's say you have Bowman, you need 2 cards to go into something bigger. Well, then you can reveal Tempest and search any one of the 3, or you can reveal Steam Healer and get Bubbleman and Burstinatrix. And that's kind of why some of these fusion monsters are in the deck specifically, is so you can search and get maximum value from your Infernal Devicer. Definitely play this card at 2, nothing more, nothing less. Then we have 1 copy of Dread Decimator. This card comes up so often, kind of. It's mainly definitely a big way of boosting up bigger monsters, though it does do piercing damage, so that could come up. And then finally, 1 copy of Berserker of the Tenyi. Now, I was struggling to see which card this could be, and I decided to go for Berserker of the Tenyi because of Cross Sheep. So Cross Sheep says that if a fusion monster is summoned to a zone this card points to, you can target or can special summon 1 level 4 or lower monster from my graveyard, which means I can go into a Link 3. And this card is a Link 3 to monsters, including a Link monster, which Cross Sheep is. So sometimes what would happen is if you had Cross Sheep on the field, you can fusion something like, let's say Elmotir or Shining Flare Wingman, special summon it to a zone this card points to, then special summon out one of the fusion materials, then you can link up into Berserker Tenyi, have a 3000 body, and then a fusion monster on the board. So that's why this card's in here, though you could probably replace this with something else. It's just my personal preference. A big body 3k is kind of hard to out and does push for more damage. So this is going to be the hero deck that I would suggest that you guys play for the normal and rare event. I'm going to be testing out too. I actually don't know how good this is, but this is probably the main primary deck that I'm going to be playing until we just get washed, let's be honest. But let me know what you guys think of this deck inside the comment section down below. If you guys like it, do you guys hate it? What would you change about it? This hero list is super fun, and in testing it was pretty great. It had some big nostalgia waves, bringing out the Flame Wingman OG and the Shining Flare Wingman and Burning for Game. It was pretty significant. So anyways, what do you guys think of this? Let me know in the comment section down below. Are you looking forward to the normal and rare event? I personally am too. I cannot wait to play this now that we know the ban list. Super excited. Anyways, that's all from me. I will talk to you guys later. Peace out.